Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the first round of Intelligence Racing League Sprint Championship. My name is Aidan Carter, otherwise known as Car Mentalist. I will be taking you through the commentary today, as always. And joined alongside me today is Ivor and Mike. Ivor, how you doing?
I am doing great, mate. Looking forward to this one. Everything reset to zero. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. So a couple of weeks ago, we had our first ever season of Intelligence Racing League came to a close. McCrew was crowned champion. So congrats to McCrew, obviously, for 2 weeks ago. But as you say, everything is reset. And in the 7 week period that we've got between now and the new game coming out in July, we're running a little sprint championship just so that we can just to pass the time, really, see who's got the best, who's going to make the best of the 7 races that we've got. Speaking of the 7 races, the calendar that we've actually got for this season, I'm just going to get that up now for you. So the calendar for this season, we're obviously starting off in Bahrain today, so that's what we're going to be doing today. Bahrain, obviously a brilliant track for racing. Second track next week will be Spain, followed by Germany, then Britain, Italy, Singapore, and Brazil. So a real mix of different types of tracks and different types of racing circuits, really. It's definitely going to be very interesting.
Yeah, and a mix of races where it's known for mixed conditions as well, so it could get a bit spicy later on in the season.
Yeah, absolutely, especially the European rounds. We know that rain is definitely very common at those tracks, so that's going to be interesting to see, definitely. Another thing to note as well, you may have noticed from the stream title that this is Division 1. We actually now have enough drivers to split into divisions, so for the first sprint championship season, we're not technically even in the second season yet, and we've already got 2 divisions now. So we'll be running today. This is Division 1. We'll be running as of now. We'll be getting going in a couple minutes or so. And Division 2 will be running later on today. That will be running at 3 o'clock today, and that's going to be commentated by Hugo. So that'll be interesting to see what Div 2 is like. But it's really great to see Intelligence Racing League growing so quickly and having so many new people in. And there's some real fast names in the lobby today. So you've got the likes of Toxic, who's obviously raced before. He's had a race wins before in this league as well. We've got last season's champion McCrew. We've got Iro Dillon, who's relatively fast. We've got Lewis, who's a very fast driver. Callum, we know, is very good at racing as well. We've got Bullet Boy, Just Chris, Cohen. There's a number of people here that could possibly take away a win. So it's really going to be interesting to see who comes away with a win today.
Yep, and as you said, this track very overtake friendly with those long straights. DRS going to be important, and I think the trains are also going to be important.
Yeah, absolutely. DRS is, I believe there's 2 DRS zones on this, or is it 3? I think it's 3 actually.
Yeah,
three. Yeah, 3 DRS zones on this track. So a DRS train is, I'd say, more than common. This track is probably almost certain that there's going to be some sort of DRS train. But the other thing as well about Bahrain is it is a very hard track on tyres, and that's going to be something to look out for, is who can keep hold of their tyres the best, who can take their tyres the furthest without losing enough pace in them. That's really going to be interesting. As well, the first lap, I think this is probably, I'd say, other than maybe Singapore, this is probably the most crucial first lap that we're going to have in this sprint season. So this is going to be really interesting to see who comes out on top.
Yeah, exactly, and I'm going to be interested in seeing what everyone does in terms of strategy, because here they're relatively simple one-stop medium to the hards. But I wonder if we're going to see a few people try to qualify on softs, maybe try something different.
I think it's definitely possible. Obviously, since we've had the update to the game where safety cars are now more common, it's pretty much certain that we're going to get some sort of virtual or full safety car at some point in the race. So starting on the softs and maybe banking on an early safety car may not be a bad strategy, and doing a 2-stop with a free pit stop in the first safety car would be maybe a brilliant strategy to call on. The 2-stop is definitely slower if it is a regular race, but it's not that far off. I'd say it's probably about 6 or 7 seconds slower, but that obviously also depends on how well people can hold on to their tyres. So if people on one-stop strategies are burning through their tyres relatively quickly, then they'll definitely lose out to people on 2 stops. So it's definitely going to be a real mix of strategies today, especially with any safety cars coming in. Just having a look at some other people that have joined the lobby since we started the stream. We've got Ghosts in, who really came on song at the end of the last season. He had a number of race victories and really high positions. He came short of the title in the end, but he did a brilliant job in the second half of the season. So he's in today in the Mercedes alongside Carlsbury, who's a person I know. I know him from TTG. He is definitely a very fast driver himself as well, so he's another one to look out for.
Yeah, a few guys here that I haven't seen before, Carlsbury being one of those, but I'm excited to see what he's going to do.
Yeah, definitely. I know from the TTL racing, he's a very consistent driver. He's more often than not in the top 10 in points in TTL F2, and that is definitely very competitive. So it'll be interesting to see what he can do today. Well, we're getting going then, getting ready for qualifying. I highly doubt that we're going to see any sort of weather play a part in this one, but you never know. So I imagine it's pretty much going to be completely dry qualifying and race. So this is all going to be about who goes for the softs and who goes for the mediums for the qualifying runs. Just having a look at the chat as well, just saying hey, hello to everyone in the chat. Hello to Bullet Boy here. Hello, nice to see you. Janetsky, he's in the chat. So is Toxic. Jav's in the chat. Sparholt's in there as well. Gary's in there. Hello to Gary. Good luck for him for later on. Yeah, a number of people in here. Everyone send in your predictions for top 3 today. Who do you think is going to come out on top? Jav's already sent in his predictions. He thinks Toxic's going to win today ahead of Lewis. And he thinks that Just As is going to be in P3. I've never seen Just As race before, so he may spring a surprise on me. That could be definitely someone that could throw a spanner in the works, but let's see what he does. And Sparholt has said that Just Chris is going to take a surprise win, so he's banking on a pretty crazy race. So a number of different predictions in the chat.
Well, what would be your predictions?
Oh, I think qualifying wise, I think maybe for qualifying, I'd probably say Bullet Boy might end up on pole for qualifying. I think alongside Bullet Boy on pole is going to be. I think I'll put Toxic. That's TTG Toxic. There's 2 Toxics in this lobby today, so that's going to be a real pain at some point if they end up racing each other. But I think TTG Toxic will be second on the grid, alongside him. Third's a difficult one because there are a number of fast people in here. I'd probably say Ghosts will end up third on the grid for qualifying.
Joe, funny enough, that's my actual podium predictions in the exact order.
Well, there you go. But you never know. There's a few people we haven't seen race before. They could really spring a surprise. So it'll be interesting to see. Let's have a look and see who the first person out on track is. It's one of the Hasses. I believe that is Callum. It is. Callum's the first one out, and he's already banking on the softs. So we know what Callum's strategy is. He's gone straight out on a set of soft tyres. So he's going to be the first person to go against the grain and go for a soft tyre run. The only other people at the moment who have the soft tyres fitted are Hypes, Ghost, Patrick, and Carlsbury. Everyone else has put a set of the hard tyres on for qualifying. So Callum's the only one at the moment out on track going for something different.
Yeah, and I'm interested to see if he's actually gonna do the lap or whether he's just going out setting the installation lap and just then boxing into the pits.
Maybe, yeah, exactly. He may be just going out for maybe to just get like a banker in, and he may just invalidate the lap on purpose. Maybe some people do that. I know some people can invalidate laps on purpose to try and get a delta up on their screen, and it can be pretty it can be handy for people's mindset. So we'll see what Callum does. He'll be the first one to come around. Patrick's actually just come out of the pit lane. He's the other driver on the softs at the moment. The other 3 drivers who are in the pit still on the softs haven't actually come out yet. So only Patrick and Callum going for that alternate strategy so far. We'll ride on board with Callum though. He's coming up to the last corner. He's going to be the first person to start. Let's have a look then. Around the last corner. Nice and neat. Keeps it in 4th gear. Ready for the run to the line. A very long run down into turn 1. This is all about where your straight line speed comes in with the setup. Has he got a fast straight line speed setup, or has he gone for something a bit more downforce heavy into turn 1? Relatively early on the brakes, down into 1st, short shifts off to 2nd to kill the wheel spin on the exit of the corner. Through turn 2 and runs all over the curb actually and invalidates at turn 3. So that's definitely going to be a common error for a number of people in this one. Turn 3 can catch a lot of people out, especially with invalidations. And Callum's the first to fall foul of it. So we're actually going to ride on board with Cohen, who I believe is the next person on track in the Renault. And
Here it is.
Yeah, so in the Renault, his first sector 28.4 as he crosses over the line. Yellow flags is at 3, that's just people getting out of the way. There's a real queue of cars in the last sector at the moment coming around to start their laps. They're starting very close to each other. I wonder if some of them are trying to do that intentionally, maybe to get a slipstream off of someone. Down into the tricky corners of turn 9 and 10. So easy to lock up in those corners, but Cohen keeps it nice and neat and tidy. He's not really pushing the limits of the track. I think this is a relatively safe lap so far from Cohen. So he comes down the end of the back straight. Up the hill into the corner with the death curb, as we like to say. Don't want to touch the curb on the inside. It's very easy to spin. He keeps well away from the curb, in fact. Another corner that's easy to lock up in. He runs a bit wide on the exit of the corner, but you are able to get away with that. Though it doesn't seem to gain him a lot of time anyway. We've got a spinner at the end of Sector 1. That's one of the Williams, I believe. And one of the Hasses. The other Hass has actually gone round as well.
That's a RTG, Luke.
One XL Ryan's the other Haas driver that spun. So Cohen comes up to the line, and it's a 28.7 is the first time. And Toxic crosses the line on 29.2. A 28.3 for the other Toxic, who crosses the line just behind him. And just as actually nicks that off of him, he goes a 10th quicker in the McLaren. So he's now on provisional pole. We've got Williams coming up to the line. That's Lewis, but that was a poor lap from him. I think he might be going for another run. He is, by the looks of things.
We've got McCrew, who was purple in Sector 2, coming up to the line now.
Let's have a look in the Racing Point, obviously not in the Red Bull anymore. As he comes up to the line, he does go on provisional pole. A 28.1, a great lap from our Season 1 champion. He's out in front by a 10th so far. Is anyone able to get close to him? Who's next up to the line? It's the other Renault driver. Let's have a look. That's just Chris. He does a 29.4, so he's not far off, but he's just at the back of the queue at the moment. We've had another spin for a Williams. Both Williams have spun on their laps by the looks of things. Janetsky's gone into P9. Aquaplaning's now P9, actually. As Dylan goes into P5, Daniel goes to P4, and now Patrick on pole on a 27.9, but that's on the soft, so he's only 2/10 clear on a set of the soft tyres, so he's going to have to massively improve on that time if he wants to gain any more places. And by the looks of things, that's pretty much everyone's first run done, apart from the likes of Ryan, who spun on their original lap, so they're waiting for another go. And actually,
I'm on board with Callum. He's purple in Sector 2. I'm not sure if he's going to finish his lap or pop into the pits. He's already done a lap on those softs, and it's not really ideal to go for 2 flying laps now.
No, he's definitely come into the pit lane. I think there's actually been a bit of contact at turn 4 by the looks of things. I actually just hopped off board with Ryan. He was trying to get a slipstream off the back of one of the Renaults, but I believe Ryan had invalidated his lap anyway. And by the looks of things, Ryan's actually just run clean into the back of the Renault in the braking zone for turn 4. I'm not quite sure which Renault it was. It might have been just Chris by the looks of things. It definitely was, actually. It was just Chris. So just Chris and Ryan have actually made contact already in qualifying. So a disaster start for qualifying for Ryan so far.
Yeah, I think they've also kind of collected Aquaplaning as well. McLaren was in the mix as well.
Well, luckily, Aquaplaning had managed to get a lap in before that anyway, as had just Chris, actually. So both of them were already through and crossed the line with a banker lap in. Ryan had invalidated his time before he'd got to that, before he'd actually made that collision. So that's a shame for him. Janetsky, I believe, has just improved. He has in the Ferraris on a 29 flat. So he's up to a current P8 at the moment. Now it just dies down a little bit while everyone comes in to put maybe go out again on the set of hard tyres, maybe, because obviously you only get one set of hard and one set of mediums. So they'll probably go out again and do another lap on the hard tyres and then go for the mediums on their final run, which is when that really counts. They really can't make any mistakes on their medium run on the final go because they only get one shot at it. So be interesting to see what everyone does.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what Patrick's going to do because he's got a lap on the softs. It's not a particularly rapid time on the soft, so definitely beatable if he chucks on the mediums towards the end.
Absolutely, yeah. Patrick has been, I would say Patrick's probably not the best qualifier. We've obviously seen from other we've definitely seen from other events that we've commentated over. Patrick doesn't usually qualify near the front of the field, but he's definitely a lot faster in race trim. He got very unlucky. His aquaplaning's actually just spun on another lap, I believe, in the middle sector and has hit the wall, unfortunately, just before turn 8 by the looks of things. So Aquaplaning's out of the session already, so he's starting outside of the top 10. He wasn't able to improve on his time. That's a real shame for Aquaplaning, but obviously Bahrain a very easy track to overtake on, so it's all to play for still in the race. Bullet Boy, meanwhile, has actually jumped up to P4 on a 28.2, and that's on his 3rd lap on the hard tyre. So Bullet Boy's still got a lot of decent pace in that car, despite his tyres being 3 laps old already.
Yeah, and I was going to say, we mentioned the curve of death on, I think it's turn 12, isn't it? The one with that really nasty curve, but
yeah,
where Aquaplaning dropped it, very easy to do, actually.
Yeah, the outside curb actually it's another curb that can catch people out. It's definitely a rough curb, so running over that curb can cause a loss of traction, and that's obviously what seemingly happened to aquaplaning, and that's why he's hit the wall. Everyone now starting to come back out then for their next runs. I believe we've got Toxic. We're going to ride on board with Toxic actually. He's just crossed the line, so he's starting his second run now on those hard tyres. Let's see if he can improve. So he goes into turn 1, nice and neat. Short shifts up to third gear instead of second. Trying to kill that wheel spin as much as possible. To the second DRS zone on the track, coming down to turn 4. A brilliant overtaking opportunity this corner is in the race. Goes down into second gear. He's very low in gears at the moment, but he's trying to get the car rotated through the first sector. He's almost a 10th up already as top 6, so a good start to the lap. This will put him ahead of Bullet Boy if he's able to keep this pace. So he comes down into turn 8, and then before the tricky turn 9 and 10. So easy to lock up in this corner, as I said, unless you have ABS on, in which case this corner is relatively easy. And Toxic looks like he hasn't had any troubles with that at all. He's a little bit wide on the exit, but you can get away with that. So he goes down the back straight now, just before turn 11. Turn 11, a pretty easy corner to master. A difficult overtaking spot though, because the braking zone is quite short. So he comes up the hill there into turn 12. Keeps away from the curb, closer to the curb than Matthew was when we were on board with him. And he's actually a 10th and a half up now with Toxic, so he's on a really good lap at the moment. So he comes out the next corner. He's a little bit wide on the exit, but just gets away with it. We've had another spinner at turn 4. That's one of the Renaults that spun round. Toxic comes into the last corner. Callum does a 27.5 on a set of softs. That's still pretty beatable though. Here comes Toxic to the line. And Toxic does a 28.1, so he goes just behind McCrew as the second fastest hard runner on his second run.
Yeah, it's we're seeing some decent gains in that from everyone. The more laps they do, as we see that just as Thompson were at 27.9.
27.9 on the hards, goes faster than Patrick, who's on the softs. Patrick actually just started another lap on another set of softs, so he's going again. But yeah, just as McCrew, Toxic, and Bullet Boy as well, all on the hard tyres, relatively close to Patrick and Callum, who are on the softs. So they've got brilliant pace in those cars. So having a look through the rest of the field to see who's coming up to the line. McCrew's coming up to the line. He does a 27.9 now. He goes 0.004 of a second faster than Just As. McCrew and Just As are incredibly close on pace, but McCrew just pips the McLaren driver to P2 on the grid.
0.004 of a second.
That is incredibly close. INL's known for close qualifyings, but Christ almighty, 0.004 of a second. Meanwhile, Cohen just crossed the line. He did a 28.2, so I think it was Chris that spun. But I think Chris was on his outlap anyway, so I think he's going to get away with that by the looks of things. Who's coming up to the line now? It's one of the Haas cars.
That's Ryan. He's
Yeah.
just popped in the time, 28.7, so decent lap. He was under pressure to get a lap on the board.
He was, absolutely, yeah, and he jumps ahead of Ghost, actually. Ghost not at the front of the field at the moment. As I say that, though, his first sector's already 2/10 up on his personal best, so Ghost on a good lap at the moment. Got a yellow flag in Sector 2. That's one of the racing points getting out of the way.
Cool.
Yeah, we've got Patrick coming up to the line, actually, so we'll just hop on board with Patrick, see if he improves. He's actually going again by the looks of things. Or no, he's coming into the pits, actually, so Patrick's actually given up on his run. We'll pop back on board with Ghost then, let's see if he can improve. Currently down in 11th, a lot lower than probably he was expecting. Same for the likes of Lewis and Carsbury. They're still down at the back of the field, along with Hypes. Carsbury and Hypes actually haven't set a lap time yet. Here comes Ghost. He's only 0.005 of a second up now, though, so Ghost has actually lost time in the middle part of the lap. Ghost's not as confident around Bahrain as you've seen him at other tracks.
Yeah, it looked like he just got the entry into turns 9 and 10 just a little bit wrong, running a bit deep, scrubbing off some time, and now with his ERS deteriorating.
Yeah, he's into the pit lane. So Ghost still down in 11th, wasn't able to improve on his hard run. With 6 minutes left to go in the session now, then this is when everyone's going to start popping those medium tyres on and going for their final run. Just see if there's anyone else out on the track who is still yet to complete a good lap time. Lewis has just gone through the middle sector. It says he's purple in the middle sector. Not quite sure if that's accurate, but if it is, then Lewis is on a brilliant lap on those hard tyres. Let's see if he finishes it though.
6.4 seconds up on his time, so he could be thereabouts.
Absolutely, here comes to the line then. Lewis's first competitive lap time. What does he do? And he does a 28 flat, so he goes up to 5th. A brilliant lap on those hard tyres. Goes just behind Just As and McCrew was the fastest hard runner and just ahead of Toxic, so Lewis throws himself right into play.
I'm just going to throw this out there. Discounting Callum's time, which was set on the softs. The second all the way down to fifth, separated by just over a tenth.
Sheesh. Incredible. Well, I mean, second to fourth is less than a quarter of a tenth of a second. That's incredibly close between these guys. It's actually close throughout the entire field. Look, if you look down from Dylan all the way down to Ghost, they're separated by less than a tenth of a second. There's real close gaps throughout the field, so a small time gain for anyone on their lap can gain them a number of positions.
Yep. Hypes and Carlsbury now are going to be two guys who are going to be really under pressure in
Yeah.
this final set, in this final attempt again at running on the board. Just because they've got no delta time, they haven't left the pits to my knowledge anyway.
Yeah, they haven't got... I haven't actually seen them left the pits myself either, actually, so I don't know whether they are just leaving it until the very last moment to do a lap time. But like you say, they're definitely under pressure to put something on the board. And they've only got one run at this point, there's not enough time or tyres left to do another run, so they've got to get it done on their first go. It's on board with Janetsky. I believe one of the Williams is actually coming up to the line. That might be Lewis coming into the pit lane.
Yeah,
it is. Yeah, so Patrick's going to be the first person to start the final run. He's gone for another set of softs. So now Patrick is going for the alternate strategy as the same as Callum. There's the only two people that have done it so far. Let's see if Patrick can improve. Got a few people coming out the pit lane in front of him. Hopefully that Toro Rosso moves out the way. It's Hypes who's just come out the pits for the first time. It's not really in the way at the moment. But Patrick a little bit of understeer in turn 2. Hypes moves out the way down the straight towards turn 4. So Patrick won't be hindered on his lap. Into turn 4 there. Very long corner. It's caught a lot of people out already. A little bit sideways for Patrick mid-corner. End of the first sector. He's a 10th up on his time. That would already put him up into second. He goes continuing his lap then. Through turn 8. Nice and neat to the apex. Doesn't downshift into first to get the car rotated. He keeps it in second gear. Down through turn 9 and 10 now.
The Ferrari off. Is that Janetsky? Yeah,
that
is.
is.
Janetsky in the wall.
Yeah, Janetsky spun behind him. So Patrick's teammate Janetsky, he's spun off. I think he was actually on a lap. It says he's on an out lap, but I think he might have been on a proper lap actually by the looks of things. That's a real shame.
Fortunately for Janetsky, from the looks of it, visually doesn't look like any wing damage.
Ah, that's brilliant to see.
Janetsky might have just got away with that one.
Yeah, Patrick up by 2.5 tenths now. He's definitely pressuring Callum for that provisional pole position. Let's see what you can do. As he comes up to the line then, he comes up to the last corner. Keeps it in fourth gear, doesn't short shift into third, has a little bit of understeer mid-corner, but gets a good exit. Coming up to the line, what is this time for Patrick? It's 27.6, he goes just behind Callum. Wow, look how close that is. 16 thousandths of a second between Callum and Patrick, nothing to choose between them.
Yeah, I just was just on board with Dylan there. It looked like a bit of Red Bull teamwork going on. Toxic giving Dylan the slipstream on the run down at turn 4.
Down into turn 4, okay. That seems like a little bit of an odd strategy call for down into turn 4. That's a pretty short straight. I'd imagine maybe even the run down to turn 1 or the run that Dylan's currently on now down into turn 11 would be a better option, as Ghosts finally puts in a time that's competitive. Goes on 27.7 though. He's only 2 tenths clear of McCrew, whose best time is on the hard, so Ghosts is under pressure from falling way down the field as people can't set their medium times. As Daniel crosses the line now. Daniel's had a fairly inconspicuous qualifying, but he jumps up to the front of the field now in the other racing point, so he's jumped to the front on those medium tyres. We've got Dylan coming up to the line now. Let's see if that slipstream gained him enough time. He's currently in 11th at the moment. And he jumps up to P5, so he goes behind Ghost actually on a 27.8. He's almost half a second off of Daniel, so Dylan not quite where we probably expected himself to be. Bullet Boy just crosses the line, and Toxic's just about to cross the line to start his final run as well. We've got one of the Alfa Romeos coming up to the line, and that's the other Toxic.
Get the Red Bull slipstream tactic again.
Yeah, by the list of things. Yeah, it does look like that. And it is down into turn 4 that they decide to do it again. Someone's just jumped up the field. I didn't see who that was. I think that might have been Hypes that's just... Yeah, it was Hypes that's just got to the line in 11th, so he's not qualified inside the top 10. So he'll get a fresh set of tyres when he starts the race. But yellow flag in sector 1 somewhere. That's just one of the Alfa Romeos moving out of the way by the looks of things. Got more people crossing the line. One of the Haas cars. I think Callum just crossed the line, but actually only improved by, well, less than half a tenth of a second. So Callum doesn't actually improve and go ahead of Daniel. See what the likes of McCrew and that are doing. McCrew's had a purple first sector by the looks of things. One of the Williams coming up to the line. I believe that's not Lewis actually. That's going to be Jay Luke. He's just starting his final run.
Purple sector 2 for Bullet Boy as he's now on the run up to the penultimate corner.
Yeah, important lap for Bullet Boy. Bullet Boy currently 16th. He's got a lot of work to do here. See how close he is to the front of the field then when he comes up to the line. Cohen's retired from the session. He won't be improving on P14. Bullet Boy goes P2, so he can't out-qualify Daniel. Daniel's still on pole. Toxic comes up to the line, and he's only P3, so he can't beat Bullet Boy or Daniel themselves. Daniel's come from absolutely nowhere, and he's got some brilliant pace, and he's on provisional pole. As I say that, his Racing Point teammate goes 0.3 of a second clear. Brilliant lap time. Yeah, brilliant lap time from McCrew. 0.3 of a second clear of his teammate and of Bullet Boy as well. Coming up to the line now, one of the Williams has just crossed the line. That's Lewis. Lewis goes into P2 now, so Lewis splits the Racing Points on a 27.2. He's not quite able, though, to dethrone McCrew from the top spot. Here comes Just As, I believe, to the line. He's one of the fastest people in the field, and he takes pole by, oh my word, 0.5 of a second. Sheesh, can he get...
These gaps are very close.
This is incredibly close. Just As nicks pole position by 55 thousandths of a second over Season 1 champion McCrew. Brilliant lap from Just As, but that and McCrew, both of them did that on their second lap on those tyres, as did Daniel. Lewis, meanwhile, did his on his first. So Lewis has got a tyre advantage ahead of the people ahead of him on the grid. Jay Luke, meanwhile, crosses the line. He's not able to improve on P15. And I think, by the looks of things, that's everyone finished in qualifying. Wow, how close do we want to be?
The top 11 separated by... Well, the top 12 separated by a second.
Oh, incredible. I mean, the top 13 almost, nearly exactly a second as well. It's how close do you want to be in the field? And the people that decided to go for the soft tyres, in the end, could only manage P7 and P8 in Callum and Patrick. So they, unfortunately, weren't able to get any higher than those positions on the grid on the soft tyres. But here we are then, everyone. This is the rundown of your grid for the first race of the Sprint Championship at Bahrain. It's Just As who takes pole position in the McLaren by less than 1/10 of a second over McCrew. Lewis is in third in the Williams ahead of Daniel in fourth. Great result from Daniel. Brilliant qualifying from him. Bullet Boy only ends up in fifth. Toxic in sixth. They had a Callum and Patrick on the softs in seventh and eighth. Ghost only ninth. And Carlsbury in the end, with his only run in qualifying, ends up in 10th, just behind his Mercedes teammate. Dylan, the first person outside the top 10, in 11th. Ahead of Janetsky, the other Toxic. Hypes, J. Luke, Cohen, Chris, Ryan, and Aquaplanning, who crashed in qualifying, is the only person that wasn't able to improve on the medium tyres, I believe. So, whoa, what a qualifying.
Yeah, it really went down to the wire at the end. Very close grid.
Incredibly close. I mean, it just goes to show that pretty much anyone, I'd probably say even inside or outside the top 10, could win this race, just how close the field is at the moment. And I think Matty in the comments put it absolutely perfectly. He just comments saying this is going to be spicy. And I think you got that, hit the nail on the head with that one, Matty.
And we all love a bit of spice.
We all do. Just actually looking, Bullet Boy just put in a comment to say that he lost about 0.3 of a second in the second sector. So Bullet Boy actually, P5 on the grid, could have been a lot higher. So that's where Bullet Boy's chance for pole position was in the middle sector on his final run. So, like I said, you had to make the run count on those medium tyres. It was the only one you got, and unfortunately Bullet Boy wasn't able to make the most of it.
And knowing Bullet Boy like I know him, he's just saying that.
Just saying it so that he knows that he's...
It's always... whatever the gap was to pole, it's always he's lost just about that in the middle sector.
Well, here we go then. Let's have a look at the tyre strategy. So obviously everyone inside the top 10 has to start on the tyres they're qualified on. Outside the top 10 though, Dylan, Janetsky and the other Toxic. I'm just going to call him the other Toxic because Lord knows I'm going to fumble over my words if I try and pronounce the second part of his name. So sorry to that if you're watching the stream, but I just have to refer to you as the other Toxic. But Dylan Janetsky and the other Toxic in 11th, 12th and 13th, all running the mediums. Hypes has gone for the soft tyres, so he's going for a clear 2-stop by the looks of things. J. Luke, Cohen and Just Chris have gone for the hards. XL Ryan's gone for the soft tyres, and Aquaplaning at the back of the field has also gone for the hards. So a real mix of strategies outside the top 10.
Yeah, and I'm interested in why Hypes and Ryan has gone for the soft tyres.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested as well. Maybe, like I said earlier on, maybe they're banking on maybe a possible early safety car. Maybe that's their plan. Maybe hoping that an early safety car comes out and maybe they can pit and put on a set of mediums and do 2 medium stints to the end of the race. I don't think a soft hard strategy is that possible around here, just because the softs die so quickly at this track that you have to be in by lap 4 or 5, and you really can't take the hards that far in the race without them absolutely dying on you.
I think to make the soft hard strategy, you need to stretch the softs to like lap 7 at the minimum.
Yeah, I'd probably say. I mean, that's where a safety car comes in. If a safety car comes in maybe lap 4 or 5, they might be able to get away with it, just because obviously you're not stretching the hards too much behind the safety car. But they're really gambling on that one, so it's going to be interesting to see. But look out for Hypes and Ryan on the first lap. They're going to be making a lot of places, whether it's things, especially at the first corner. So that's going to be interesting to watch. But we know what your top 3 is. I believe your top 3 was my qualifying top 3. Now that you've seen qualifying, has your prediction changed at all?
No, because qualifying usually doesn't translate into race pace, so we'll see.
Definitely interesting to see. I'm looking at just Asa McCrew to have a brilliant fight at the front of the field, but don't count Lewis out just yet. I think he's going to be the one to watch in this race. But here we go then. Just waiting for the lights ahead of the drivers. Here we go then. Who on the front row is going to get the best start? Is it Racing Point or is it McLaren across the line? A long hold, but brilliant reactions from Just As, and he gets a brilliant start ahead of McCrew. But McCrew keeps to the inside. Just As hasn't moved across. He's sticking to the racing line for the first corner. McCrew doesn't break late enough though to challenge. Lewis on the outside. It's kind of stay on running order at the moment.
Contact, Ghost and Patrick, I believe I was.
Oh, Ghost and Patrick contact at the first corner. Oh, such a shame. And Just Chris looks like he might have been involved in that as well. Hopefully there's not a lot of damage. I don't think people have lost too much damage. Bullet Boy absolutely sends it in turn 4 and gains 2 places on Daniel and Toxic by the looks of things. So Bullet Boy up to 4th. Brilliant start for him. Same for Toxic. Daniel's dropped 3 places now actually as Callum makes his way through on the soft tyres. Carlsbury up to 8th. He's had a good start as well. He's going to go all the way around the outside of Daniel at turn 8, is he? Then he gets the Betty exit, but Carlsbury's still side by side. Is he looking for the inside for turn 9? He thinks about it and he does go through. So Daniel's falling down the field and he's actually just outbroke himself as well. He's run it really wide. That's going to put Dylan through maybe. And Hypes, look at Hypes' start. He's up to 10th already. He's had a brilliant start. Dylan down the inside of Daniel. Is he going to make the move stick? By the looks of things, he is. So Dylan's now up to P8 ahead of Daniel. Daniel's fallen from 4th on the grid down to 9th. He's had a terrible start.
Yeah, J. Luke and I'm going to call him Toxic Jack.
There we go. Oh, just J. Luke actually is just spun by the looks of things. I think he might have touched the curb.
Bullet Boy's around in the wall.
Oh! Where on earth has that happened for Bullet Boy? That's happened on the exit of the corner. Was there any contact or did he just spin on his own? But Bullet Boy from P4 was fallen to the back of the field with J. Luke. What a disaster for him. Just looking for the rest of the field. Oh, look at this. 3 wide for P5. Carsway round the outside, Callum's on the inside. Carsway's actually got front wing damage by the looks of things. Dylan's just lagging back. He's just waiting for something to happen. Daniel's already picked up a time penalty. It's Hypes. Hypes into P8. He's looking at Dylan for P7 into turn 4. Meanwhile, Callum on the inside of Carsbury. They're very close. I think Carsbury might just hold on to this one. Carsbury with front wing damage has made his way to P5 from 10th on the grid. But that front wing damage, I wonder whether the 2 Mercedes may have made contact on the first lap. And that's why Ghost is so far down. They were alongside each other on the grid. But you can see Carsbury struggling. And look at Dylan down the inside. From absolutely nowhere, Dylan goes down the inside of turn 9. He's going to try and hold it around the outside. Oh, there's contact. Dylan kind of turns in on Callum. How on earth Callum saved that? I will never know. Brilliant driving from Callum.
He's definitely been playing a bit of dirt recently.
He absolutely has. He's brilliant rallying skills there from Callum, and Dylan actually lets him through, and Daniel's made his way back up to P7 with that, so Dylan loses out, and there goes Hypes once again. Oh, Hypes hits the back of Daniel by the looks of things, and all the good work that Hypes did on the first lap is undone, and he falls to 16th. My word, don't know where to look on this first lap. Another person who's had an incredible start is Ryan. Ryan from 18th on the grid is 9th, and he's on the back of Dylan for P8. He's had a brilliant start. Meanwhile, at the front of the field, Lewis is on the back of McCrew, just as it's starting to pull away. We know Lewis's tyres are at least 1 lap fresher than McCrew's. Here goes Lewis into turn 1. Is he going to try and make the move, stick up the inside he is? McCrew moves back to the racing line. DRS is only... Yeah, car's been to the pits to replace that front wing. He's probably going to put us out of the hards on by the looks of things. As Lewis tries to go round the outside of turn 2. Is he going to pull this one off on McCrew? Toxic's there in the background as well. McCrew switches to the inside to try and defend, I think, from Toxic. But Toxic's going to try and go all the way around the outside. Is he going to pull that one off? They're still side by side on the exit of the corner. McCrew's got the inside, but Toxic's slightly ahead. They're still side by side. McCrew just about leaves Toxic space. Fair racing between these two. McCrew forced off the track a little bit. Toxic still on the outside. They're still side by side. How on earth they haven't come into contact yet? And Toxic is finally able to pull the move off around the outside of turn 8. But brilliant move from Toxic and from Lewis. And McCrew's fallen to 4th.
Like 2014 all over again, or wherever the year was when Hamilton and Rosberg were side by side in the desert.
Yeah, that's brilliant driving between those two. Great respect from those two to give each other space as well and not crash into each other. Would have been so easy to do so. But at this point in the race, the top 4 have disappeared from the rest of the field. 5 seconds is the gap from McCrew down to Callum in P5, who's on the softs. So a real split in the field at the moment. That's really going to affect the likes of maybe Daniel and Dylan and Toxic Jack, who were thinking about maybe trying to keep with the front runners. But Ryan's had a brilliant start, and he's going to be on the back of Daniel now. Look out for him. He's obviously on an alternate strategy, along with his Haas teammate as well. Both Haas's going for this different strategy. Is Ryan close enough? Daniel's, though, is in the DRS range of Callum. So I think Daniel might have a go. He's not quite close enough by the looks of things, I don't think. Although the straight is very long. Does he think about a dart to the inside? He's not quite close enough. He's very late on the brakes, but he's not quite close enough to make the move stick on Callum.
This is going to be interesting now because Callum and Ryan both on the softs, both in very close proximity to each other. Whoever pits first is going to hang his teammate out to dry.
Yeah, absolutely. I think as Dylan and Toxic meanwhile are fighting. I think Toxic's actually trying to get past Dylan. Dylan, after battling with Daniel and Ryan, for some reason is really struggling for pace. I don't know if he's got damage on that car or not. I can't see any end plate damage, but no, but he's starting to fall off the back of the people in front. And look at Ryan all over the back of Daniel. Ryan's got so much more pace in these soft tyres compared to his Haas teammate as well. Just goes to show what 1 lap fresher soft tyres really does for you around this track. It's just a massive difference, really. But Daniel close to Callum. Does Daniel think about a move into turn 11? He's not close enough. Just have to wait for the pit straight by the looks of things, but you can already tell Callum is really starting to struggle. Meanwhile, Cohen and Janetsky are side by side. I think Janetsky's actually just made the move stick on those mediums, so he's now up into 11th place.
Daniel not really using any ERS either.
No, absolutely, 100%. Wow, he's not used any at all. Is he close enough down into the last corner? He's very late on the brakes. Meanwhile, Toxic sets the fastest lap of the race. They're all starting to bunch up at the front of the field as Callum's into the pit lane already. Lap 5, and Callum is in. That frees up Daniel, but here comes Ryan. Is Ryan going to go for the move at turn 1? He's thinking about it. I don't think he's quite close enough. He isn't, no, but I think he's going to try and wait. Daniel's a little bit too late on the brakes. Meanwhile, Toxic and Dylan are side by side through turn 2. Dylan just manages to hold on to 7th. Here comes Ryan, though. Daniel's not defending it by the looks of things. Ryan's going to go for the inside for turn 4. But Daniel has much better pace around the outside. And Daniel's just going to hold on. There's a little bit of contact there on the exit of the corner. But Daniel just holds on to 5th place. Oh,
Toxic Jack and Dylan.
Oh.
On the exit of turn 4. Dylan just a little bit too much of a squeeze on Toxic. Just clips the back end and into the wall.
That's a shame. I wasn't quite able to see that one. That's put Ghost back up into P7 after a pretty atrocious first lap for Ghost. He's managed to work his way back into P7. So brilliant stuff for him. Great recovery as well from Janetsky after crashing in qualifying. He's now back up into P9. So good stuff for him. He's on the back of Toxic now. So I didn't see if Toxic has any damage or not. I don't think he does. I think he got away with it. But Dylan is going to have to pit and replace that front wing. He is way too far down the field to warrant staying out with that amount of damage. Just looking at the front of the field though, Toxic at the moment looks like the fastest of the top 3. He's only 4 tenths behind Lewis, but Lewis is catching just as at the front of the field. But look at the gap between the two racing points. It's 7.5 seconds already. These top 4 are gone.
Yeah, and I think that's just.
All Toxic down the inside. He thought about it, but he's just not quite close enough to make it stick.
I think that's been the story of these two trains now. They've been furiously battling for fifth place, whereas these
Yeah, it's
four, well,
all
they're furiously battling. There's Toxic
down the inside
of Lewis,
again.
and
Is he going to pull that one off? He
that's
is.
it.
Lewis gives him a lot of space. Toxic pulls it off. Toxic's up into P2. Meanwhile, Daniel and Ryan are still going at it, and Ryan is not able to make that move stick on Daniel, but these guys are now starting to drop Ghosts, so Ghost is really starting to struggle to keep up with the two in front of him. So these two kind of in a race on their own at the moment, but obviously Ryan on a completely different strategy. Janetsky, meanwhile, is just past the Alfa Romeo of Toxic. Patrick, meanwhile, in P10, he's made his way back up into P10 after an awful first lap, and Hypes has managed to work his way back up into 12th on the same set of soft tyres, despite spinning at some point. So he's had a good recovery as well. So a number of people with good recoveries.
I'm still confused on Daniel's ERS usage. He's
Oh yeah.
He's keeping it between like 90 and 100, and well, that's good for ERS save, and I think you actually lose a bit of power if it's too high or too low.
I think, especially if it's too high, you're definitely not using the ERS down the straights, as you can tell, which means that he's losing pace to the people in front of him in a straight line, and doesn't have DRS as well, so he's losing even more to the people in front. Meanwhile, Toxic, I think, almost had a go at Just As into turn 1, but actually just outbroke himself a little bit. So, but Just As starting to struggle. He's managed to calm himself down a bit, cool those tyres down, and it looks like McCrew is back on pace, and he's right at the back of this queue again. So, at the moment, it honestly looks like Just As in the McLaren is the slowest of the top 4.
I'm wondering if McCrew is and Daniel are having a bit of team orders by you. Maybe trying to go for a double stack, maybe just backing off a bit so we can double stack with McCrew.
It could absolutely be possible, yeah. We know that the undercut of this track is incredibly powerful. I think the good thing for Daniel, though, is that Ryan's on a completely different strategy to him, and if Daniel just have to go out a lap longer to sacrifice for McCrew's race, Daniel's not at risk of being undercut by the likes of Janetsky and Ghost, because they are over 4 seconds back. So Daniel is in a good place at the moment in P5. It all just really depends on what Ryan's strategy is, but he's managed to go out till lap 7 on these softs. So Ryan is capable maybe of putting the hards on and going to the end of the race, so don't count him out of a good result. Patrick's doing the same thing by the looks of things. Meanwhile, Hype actually just pitted as well on the previous lap, and he put the mediums on, so he's definitely going for a 2-stop, and he came out just ahead of Cohen and about 3.5 seconds behind Carlsbury. So that's another one to watch out for, is Hype's strategy. Let's see what he can do. Looking at the front of the field again.
If, Ryan's going to come into the pits. Daniel tried to sell him a dummy into the pits.
Ooh. Daniel tried to sell him, but Ryan didn't fall for it, and Ryan doesn't come in again. This is a good thing for Ryan, though, is that whilst Ryan's tyres may be struggling, at this track it is pretty easy to keep up with the car in front of you because of DRS. So, at the moment, Daniel's actually really helping Ryan's race, and that he's just dragging Ryan along with him, really. And Ryan can extend his tyres.
Ryan down the inside?
Yeah, he's thinking about it down the inside. He's not laid enough on the brakes. I think this is a carbon copy. They've done this about 3 laps in a row, but again, Ryan isn't able to pull the move off. Meanwhile, Ghost and Janetsky, they're still side by side. These three are absolutely inseparable at the moment, but Ghost just holds on to P7. But Ghost, at the moment, I was really expecting a lot more from Ghost in this race. We've seen how fast he is, but he is really struggling at the moment. He doesn't have the pace to keep up with Ryan and Daniel, and he's being almost swallowed by Janetsky and Toxic at this point as Hypes picks up a time penalty.
Yeah, at the moment it does look like Ghost is seriously lacking pace compared to these guys ahead, but
as Janetsky again, he thought about it, he runs onto the curb, and this is going to let Toxic through. Around the outside of turn 12, they're still side by side, and Janetsky just holds on to the play, so great driving from Janetsky to hold on to that position, and he's still within DRS range to go, so he's in a good position still to hold on. Meanwhile, Just As for the first time is having to defend against Toxic. Toxic looking to the outside. Just As breaks really late. And Toxic's through. Toxic makes the move stick on the McLaren. Is Lewis able to capitalise on this as well? Not quite, but Toxic gets the DRS as well because of the switchback move. So Just As isn't able to get back at him down into turn 4. Toxic now up into the lead of the race. He wasn't the fastest in qualifying, but in the race, he's managing these mediums pretty well. Let's see if he can start to gap the McLaren driver now, though. We've definitely seen that he is faster, but is he fast enough to be able to break that DRS and see if he can escape out front?
DRS difference.
Incredible, yeah. Toxic with 80%. Yeah, Toxic has really been saving ERS up behind the McLaren, but Toxic a little bit wide in turn 10. Doesn't get the best of X6. Yeah, McCrew is not quite close enough. I wonder which one of these top 4 is going to blink first. Which one of these guys is going to come into the pits first and try and undercut them? I think you're probably going to see people coming in maybe around lap 11, lap 12. I think that's probably going to be the start of people on the mediums coming in. Meanwhile, Daniel and Ryan are still going at it. Daniel's actually just repassed Ryan down into turn 11 by the looks of things. They're still side by side actually, but Daniel repasses him. But Toxic hasn't been able to break that DRS yet. It's only 0.3 of a second, so Just As still has a very good opportunity at coming back at Toxic down into turn 1. Toxic trying to sell in the dummy, I think. Actually, it's not. Toxic's coming in. End of lap 9, and Toxic is already in, and McCrew's following him in as well, so that's a very early pit stop for the medium runners. Toxic onto the hard tyres.
Ryan's going to be in as well. No, Ryan's going to stay out.
Ryan's staying out. And McCrew puts on the hards as well. This is going to be interesting to see where they come out in terms of traffic. If they come out behind a bunch of slower drivers, it's really going to affect them. Ryan and Daniel are still side by side. Ryan actually gets a little bit loose on the curb on the inside of turn 1. So he's not able to get the run on the exit of the corner. Meanwhile, Toxic's actually come out directly behind Aquaplaning. So that's actually going to quite heavily affect Toxic if he's stuck behind Aquaplaning through the middle part of the lap. McCrew, meanwhile, he's come out about 2 seconds further back.
Yeah, McCrew have a little bit of a clean air to try and push into, but Toxic stuck behind Aquaplaning. I'd say advantage to Lewis and Just As now.
Yeah, absolutely. But I'm amazed that Ryan is now on his 9th lap on these soft tyres, and he's stayed out longer than some of the medium runners. Ryan's doing a brilliant job on these soft tyres and managing to keep them going. He's actually put himself in a brilliant opportunity of finishing in the top 5 in this race just through his tyre saving, but he is starting to lose a little bit of time to Daniel now, so I'd probably imagine we'll see Ryan in on this lap maybe. Maybe try and get the undercut on Daniel unless Daniel pits at the same time. Meanwhile, what do the 2 leaders do? The McLaren Just As is coming in. Lewis is staying out. Lewis thinks it's too early, so Lewis is going to stay out and run around on his own and maybe run a couple laps longer and go for and have the fresher tyres at the end of the race. He thinks that's the best strategy call, so Lewis staying out a bit longer. I have to see what his pace is. He's kind of just been stuck really in the traffic, saving ERS, not really fighting people very hard. He's been staying in third pretty much the whole race.
Toxic versus Just As to see how close to each other they're going to be.
Toxic's going to be ahead. He is ahead, yeah, Toxic is ahead, just ahead of Aquaplaning, his teammate. And McCrew's actually lost out quite heavily in this. McCrew is almost, I'd say, he's over 2 seconds behind Just As now, and he's not within DRS range of Aquaplaning yet, so McCrew's actually lost out a little bit from this. But yeah, Just As still out behind Toxic, but the undercut didn't really work.
Yeah, I wonder if McCrew got held in his pit lane a little bit by Toxic when he was being released.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe that might have been the reason why he was held for so long, and maybe why he's a little bit far back, like you say. But I was expecting Toxic to have a bigger gap to Just As, if I'm honest, but he's not really gapped him in that 1 lap that he came in. So maybe the undercut's not as powerful as we think around this track. So this puts Lewis in a pretty good position if he's able to take these mediums a little bit longer and have fresher hards for the end of the race. Let's see what Lewis does though. Does Lewis stay out or does he come into the pits? He's staying out again. So Lewis is going even further on these tyres. He doesn't think that the hards, he doesn't think pitting on lap 9 for the hards is the best strategy call. We think staying out and going for fresher tyres at the end of the race is the better option. Meanwhile, Just As is very fast out of the gate on these hard tyres. Is closing in on Toxic. He sets a purple middle sector as well. Meanwhile, in front of them, I believe Janetsky just came in, as did Daniel. And Toxic sets the fastest up of the race.
That is very interesting. I just noticed Ryan's come into the pits and he's put on a set of mediums.
Ryan's put a set of medium tyres on. Oh, okay. That's a very odd strategy call in my opinion. I would have expected the hard tyres because they would have easily gone to the end from this point in the race. But
surely you don't think he's going to try the soft mediums?
I mean, it's a very bold strategy call, I'd say that. He can try it, absolutely, but It
Just
is
judging on how long he took the softs, and I'm wondering if that's in his mind right now.
it maybe is in his mind. He took the softs way further than I think anyone expected him to. So maybe he thinks he can take the mediums even further. Obviously, they are fresh mediums as well. They haven't done qualifying, so it could be possible. Maybe Ryan is thinking taking the mediums to the end.
That would be some feat if Ryan's able to pull that strategy off.
That would be a brilliant strategy call if Ryan's able to pull that off. But he's come out of the pits behind Daniel still, but he's still within DRS range. And obviously Daniel's on the hards, so Ryan has a real tyre advantage at this point. He's got to make the most of it and try and gap Daniel as much as possible. Meanwhile, Lewis is now into the pit lane. Let's see where he comes out relative to the people he was battling. Just As, meanwhile, is actually swarming all over the back of Toxic, so I imagine Just As is going to try and go for the move into turn 1.
This could be free wide out of the pits.
Yeah, absolutely could.
Toxic Jack is into the pits as well.
Here we come down the straight, just on board with Just As. Is he close enough to Toxic for a move into turn 1? He stays in high ERS. He doesn't go for the move, so he stays behind. Meanwhile, Lewis comes out of the pit lane, and his tyres are 3 laps fresher than Toxic and 2 laps fresher than Just As in front of him. And he comes out still ahead of McCrew. So Lewis is in a very good spot at the moment.
Yeah, it looks like the traffic that Toxic and had to deal with on his outlap, coupled with the fact he was battling Just As, has really played into Lewis's hands.
It absolutely has, and you can see just on board from Lewis that Just As is all over the back of Toxic. Toxic looked like the faster, more confident driver on the mediums, but at the start of the stint, just has more confidence on these hard tyres than Toxic does. But I think Just As is going to have to make the move stick quickly before the two behind him start to catch up. As I say that, just on board with McCrew. McCrew makes a little mistake on the exit at turn 10 and runs wide.
Well, just looking at those who are yet to make a pit stop, and it's the guys running in 5th and 6th, Aquaplaning and J-Luke.
Yeah, they're the only ones who haven't stopped yet. The problem for them at the moment is that when they pit, it's obviously quite a long pit stop around here. The pack, considering all the chaos we had in the first opening laps, the pack is still pretty close together. So Aquaplaning and J-Luke are going to drop a number of positions when they make their first pit stop, but the tyre advantage of the mediums, they'll be a lot faster. I'm just having a look through the rest of the field. Meanwhile, Ryan is trying to make a move stick on Daniel. I think he's going to have a look into turn 1. Right on board with Ryan. We'll go off board with Ryan, and we'll see down the pit straight whether Ryan gets the run on Daniel. It's 0.3 of a second. He's definitely close enough. Daniel sees it coming. These two have been pretty much inseparable the entire race. Brilliant battle between these two. Ryan goes to the outside, and he's actually clear of Daniel before he even gets to turn 1. So Ryan moves his way up into 8th place, which at the moment is a net P5.
Yeah, looking at Callum and Hypes, I don't think their two-stop strategy's working out too well for him.
No, not at the moment. I believe Callum at the moment is behind J-Luke, who's on the 1-stop. And like I said, Hypes is all the way down in 14th place on the 2-stop strategy. He's got to make another pit stop yet. So he's going to fall pretty much to last in the field at the moment. So Hypes, yeah, the 2-stop strategy just really hasn't worked for them. Same for Patrick as well, actually. Patrick had actually gone for the 1-stop by the looks of things. He went to the soft, from the softs to the hard, and he's down in 17th place.
Yeah, the feeling that was going to happen for Callum then, seeing how wide he went off at turn 10.
He is starting to get within DRS range of Aquaplaning, so we might be able to pass him, but at the moment, Callum is still behind J-Luke, sorry, he's actually going to pass J-Luke, but he's actually behind Aquaplaning, sorry, by about 6 seconds.
Chinesky and Cohen side by side.
All through turn 12, and Toxic's trying to go around the outside of this as well. Cohen holds P11 though. But look how close this is on the field. You can just look on the track map from first down. There's not really big gaps between cars. It's a really close field at the moment. Just having a look through the rest of the field. Some people who have stopped quite early cars, we obviously stopped very early. Daniel and Ryan are still going at it. Actually, Ryan had to move out of the way for Daniel down into turn 1. Ryan's still there on the inside for turn 2. They just about give each other space. Oh, as I say that, they make contact. Daniel's round. Daniel hit the wall. He resets the track as well. So Daniel hits the wall on the inside of turn 3. I'm not sure if
when it comes to resetting on track, I'd say make sure it's safe to do so.
Yeah, I don't think that's the smartest move from Daniel. I think it was I think it was more of a panic move from Daniel, thinking that he's losing a lot of time, but look how many places he's losing already, down to 14th. Bullet Boy goes around the outside of him for 14th place now. Daniel down to 15th. There's a yellow flag in Sector 1, just Chris has spun by the looks of things. And he's only on 13 lap old medium, so I don't imagine Ryan's going to take those medium tyres a lot longer than 13 laps without them absolutely dying. Meanwhile, looking at the front of the field, just as it's on the back of Toxic again, it's only 0.3 of a second. And Lewis is closing in. McCrew's starting to fall off the back of these guys now. But look at that, Toxic not even fighting it. Toxic in low ERS modes, just as it's through. So the McLaren driver retakes the lead.
Yeah, looks like we're going to have a bit of a cat and mouse game now.
Absolutely looks like it. I think by the looks of things, the advantage is definitely with the person who runs in second place at the moment, because whoever goes into the lead just cannot break that DRS and cannot get away. So running in second place at the moment looks like the optimum place to be. Maybe even running in third place. Lewis is just sitting back watching these guys at the moment.
Yeah, McCrew.
Meanwhile, Callum, whoa, on board with Callum. If he pulls that off, that's a brilliant move. Round the outside of J. Luke, he's still there. There's a little bit of contact with the side pod of J. Luke's Williams. Still round the outside. On the curb on the inside. Brilliant move from Callum. Wow, he set that up in turn 4. He absolutely sent that on the brakes. It was very reminiscent of Lando Norris. It's just Chris actually retires from the session. That was very reminiscent of Lando Norris, and we got a virtual safety car. So, not a full one, but Daniel's just come into the...
He's facing the wrong way at turn 1. How has Chris managed that?
I don't know if there was contact with another driver or not, but that is a very bizarre place to crash. So that is definitely a very odd place to crash. Just meanwhile, looking at the track map, look at the queue behind Janetsky all the way down to Ghost in 15th, 10th to 15th, all in a queue, all on completely different strategies, all running in the same track space. It's incredibly close.
Alright, I'm going to throw this out now for you, a little bit of a twist. Callum, coming up to the pits now, does he pit and chuck on another set of mediums?
He's got to, really, hasn't he? Aquaplaning, meanwhile, has come into the pits for his mandatory stop. He's sped in the pit lane. Callum stays out as the virtual safety car ends. And as the virtual safety car ends, J. Luke comes in as well. So this helps Aquaplaning a little bit. He is able to gain back a little bit of time with the virtual safety car still being out when he came in. Let's see where he comes out relative to other people. Meanwhile, Cohen's come into the pits. Aquaplaning comes out in P13 just behind Ghost and Hypes, who are side by side down in turn 1. Ghost around the outside of Hypes. Is he going to pull that move off around the outside? He is. Brilliant move from Ghost. And Ghost up into P11. Oh my word, as I say that, it's all over the road. Incredibly well held from Ghost, but he was all over the place. How he didn't crash into the wall there, I will never know, but my word, that took the breath out of my mouth. He was so all over the road, but brilliantly held.
I mean, it just goes to show how lethal these curbs can be. Absolutely.
Just noticing one thing, Carlsbury gained a lot of time behind the virtual safety car. He's nearly 5 seconds ahead of Janetsky now, and he's within DRS range of Ryan. I don't know if Ryan made a mistake behind the virtual safety car, but Carlsbury has gained a lot of time on the Haas driver.
Well, there is a little glitch of the safety car when it's ending that pretty much just put your foot down, you'll be able to go for it. So I'm wondering if Ryan was respecting the Delta and maybe Carlsbury was...
maybe not doing so. In which case, that is a shame if Carlsbury has done that. But we'll have to see. Ryan, meanwhile, he defends all the way to the pit wall to try and fend this one off.
It could be that Ryan's made a mistake or something, but looking at the gap machine in McCallum, I wouldn't think so.
I wouldn't think so, no. As Carlsbury down the inside, Ryan leaves him just enough space, but Ryan holds on to the P6 for the time being. Carlsbury on the curb in turn 3. He's going to look for a move at turn 4. Meanwhile, Bullet Boy's pit again. He's gone for another set of mediums. Around the outside of turn 4 goes Carlsbury. Ryan accelerates through turn 4, trying to run Carlsbury out of road. Ryan holds on to the place. Carlsbury's not able to go around the outside like Callum was able to do on J. Luke. So Carlsbury stays in P7 for the time being.
It actually does look like they are catching Callum as well. These tyres are definitely starting to go off.
Yeah, Callum's tyres will be right at the end of their life at this point. 13 laps on these medium tyres, and there's still 11 laps to go. So Callum will not be able to take those tyres to the end of the race. He's going to have to pit again, and he's going to drop a number of positions, but it all depends on what tyres he puts on. Meanwhile, there's a great battle for 10th. Hypes, Ghost and Aquaplaning. Aquaplaning's obviously just come out of the pit lane, and he's trying to get back into the points. Hypes on that two-stop strategy at the moment. So they work their way up the hill. Meanwhile, the top three are still all within DRS range of each other, but the order has not changed as of yet. It's still just as leading from Toxic and Lewis. McCrew's fallen to 6 seconds back, so as he fell out the DRS range, he's completely lost pace with the top three at this point. And he's running in a race on his own in 4th at the moment.
Tell you what, the safety car would really chuck a little bit of extra spice into this right now.
It absolutely would, yeah, it could really throw a spanner in the works. Meanwhile, Ghost now on the back of Hypes, down into turn 1. Bullet Boy picks up a time penalty. Does Ghost go to the inside or the outside? He goes to the inside as Hypes moves back to the racing line. Ghost just about gets it stopped.
Down the inside into turn 4 on Ryan.
The yellow flag in sector 3. Bullet Boy's actually spun on the last corner.
Surely I haven't called it, thank God.
Yeah. Oh, there's a bit of contact. Bit of contact between Hypes and Ghost, and Aquaplaning's made his way past Ghosts. So Aquaplaning up into 11th, and he's on the fringes of the points. He's the lead driver, I believe, that started on the hard tyres. Oh my word. That was incredibly late on the brakes. He must have been miles back for that move to work. Meanwhile, actually, Bullet Boy spun again by the looks of things at turn 3, and he's hit the wall and knocked his front wing off completely. And another virtual safety car.
I was going to say, if a safety car came out, I would be accused of being a wizard or something.
Well, we almost got there.
I mean, it's a VSC, so...
A VSC, it kind of counts. Meanwhile, McCrew is actually just in the background. I saw that. McCrew dives into the pit lane. This is a pretty...
Ooh, that's cheeky.
It's a cheeky move from McCrew. If the virtual safety car stays out while he's in the pit lane, it could be a smart move. He had a big gap back...
Callum needs to pit.
And he is. Callum's in. Callum's in. I think Carsby's coming in as well by the looks of things, so that frees up Ryan now. But that's a brilliant... As Carsby speeds in the pit lane, Ryan's going to come out ahead of McCrew. But it's a good opportunity for McCrew now to maybe work his way back forward a bit. He was struggling, obviously, for pace on those hard tyres. He comes out just ahead of Janetsky.
I wonder if Aquaplaning is going to get Callum. Yes, he is, and Ghost.
He is, yeah. Aquaplaning up into P8 now. So Aquaplaning's actually... It's worked out brilliantly for the McLaren driver now, up into P8. He's 5 seconds off the back of Toxic.
Janetsky just got past McCrew side by side in turn 4.
McCrew just holds the place. Yeah, McCrew just able to hold on to P5, so Janetsky stays P6. Toxic running alone in P7 at the moment. Look out for Aquaplaning though at the end of this race. He's still on relatively fresh medium tyres. 2 drivers in front are on hards. He's got a really good opportunity in this race. The yellow flag is set 3. Bullet Boy has spun again.
I mean, I think he's trying to cause an SC right here.
I mean, it's the 3rd or 4th time he's spun as he comes into the pit, and I imagine he'll probably retire from the race from there. Unless he does stay out. No, there we go. Yeah. Bullet Boy retires from the race. That's a shame. Bullet Boy showed great pace, but the race just hasn't worked out for him in the end. Having a look through the rest of the field then at what's happening. Callum, after his second pit stop, still came out in P10, so he's still in the points. So it has worked out relatively well for Callum in the end. And he has got about a 3-second gap to Ghost, who we know has been struggling for pace at the moment. So Callum's still on for gaining places at the moment, as is Carsby. He's not far off the back of the points as well with P12. So don't rule any of these people out at all.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing now going forward is going to be Ryan seeing how long he can take those mediums, and he is going to be in puncher territory come the end of this race.
It's definitely going to be very close, but the thing for Ryan is we've had 2 virtual safety cars. They will have helped him a little bit, not obviously as much as a full safety car would help him, but is going to help him a little bit. Meanwhile, just looking back at the leaders, Lewis, I think, is now starting to push a little bit more. He's getting a bit closer to Toxic. Toxic and Just As have stayed about 5/10 apart for the last 10 laps, it seems. There hasn't really been a change in gap between these guys, but I think Lewis is starting to put the hammer down a bit now. I think he's going to have to try and make moves.
Toxic is trying to respond to Lewis player.
See if anyone go for a move at turn 1. Toxic, meanwhile, has saved so much ERS in this period of the race. He's almost back to 100% ERS now. And just as already Blake in the slipstream on the exit of the final corner, but Toxic's only 3/10 back. He's definitely close enough to make a move. Lewis sets the fastest lap of the race. Does Toxic go for it? No, Toxic stays in non-ERS. He isn't going for the move. Toxic's trying to wait for the last moment. It's just as actually runs wide at turn 1, and that almost caught Toxic out. Let's see if Lewis is close enough to make a move. Toxic obviously has DRS as well on just as, so he's not going to be able to make the move. But Lewis really late on the brakes. Lewis much more confident on the brakes. McCrew meanwhile sets the fastest lap of the race, and he's right behind Ryan, but he's not close enough into turn 1.
Dragging Janetsky along as well.
Yeah, he is. I just noticed that actually Janetsky's stayed within McCrew's DRS and has been dragged along. Janetsky's come from absolutely nowhere in this race after crashing in qualifying and being well outside the top 10. He's brought himself forward with brilliant racing and he's on for a possible P5 at this point in the race. Let's have a look. McCrew's not close enough to Ryan into turn 4 either, so McCrew's going to have to stay behind in the middle part of the lap. Meanwhile, Hypes sets a 29.7. Brilliant lap time from Hypes, but that's on the softs and he's down in 16th at the moment, so that's such a shame for Hypes. It just has not worked for him today.
Well, it looks like we only got 2 little battles going on. The battle for the lead between Toxic, Just As and Lewis, and the battle for P4.
Yeah, the battle for P4 at the moment. McCrew again not close enough to Ryan for the move at turn 11, so it looks like he's going to have to wait for the pit straight. We can see how late on the brakes McCrew is compared to Ryan. Let's have a look through the rest of the field as well. Aquaplaning, after putting those mediums on, isn't actually catching Toxic anymore and is actually being caught by Ghost. So Ghost is starting to come back at Aquaplaning for P8 now. Carlsby meanwhile has actually just made a move on Patrick for P11. So he's only 1 point outside the points as Lewis has actually gone for a move on Toxic. Completely missed it, but Lewis has made his way past the Red Bull driver of Toxic and Lewis is now up into P2. So it's now Lewis who's chasing after the McLaren driver.
I wonder if same thing happened as on the previous lap with McCrew actually getting past Ryan. They actually locked wheels.
Ooh, yeah. But McCrew makes the move stick. Here comes Janetsky as well. Janetsky to the inside of the house driver.
Ryan is boxed in by you.
Ryan squeezes Janetsky to the apex, but just about leaves him room. Janetsky gets a poor exit from the corner. Ryan's able to just hold on to P5.
Yeah, anyway, what I was going to say with Toxic and Lewis, I wonder if just went a little bit too deep and caught out Toxic again.
Possibly, yeah. It happened in the lap before. It may have happened again. Let's have a look through the rest of the field. Callum is starting to catch Ghost and Aquaplaning now. So he's coming back at these guys for a possible P8. Aquaplaning definitely not catching Toxic anymore. He was running on his own at the moment in P7. Now, does Lewis...
Well off the track.
Yeah, does Lewis go for a move now into turn 1? He's lowered his ERS. It doesn't look like he's going for it. Breaks into turn 1. Yeah, Lewis not close enough and he doesn't look like he wants to make the move. Toxic's starting to get a little bit detached from these guys now. It's almost out of DRS range to Lewis, so I don't know if Toxic's starting to struggle on those tyres. Obviously, they are the oldest of the top 3 at the moment. Lewis has the freshest of the hard tyres.
I mean, the thing is, Toxic should be safe from anyone behind him. I was just on board with Callum and I just got a lovely view then of Ghost back and sliding through the final corner.
It looks
He's
like
really struggling here. I'm actually surprised.
I'm very surprised that Ghost has struggled so much in this race. He has really struggled. He's down in P9 at the moment. He caught Aquaplaning pretty quickly, but hasn't been able to pass him since. And now Callum's on the back of him on the fresher mediums. He's under pressure here, and Carlsby coming at him as well as Mercedes' teammate. Ghost is at risk of falling out of the points at the moment. Just on board with Janetsky at the moment. Ryan's just about sticking in DRS range of McCrew, although as I say that, he might have just fallen out of it. He has actually. Oh no, he's got DRS this lap, so Ryan just staying within DRS range of McCrew, and that's helping him defend. But I think down the pit straight, Ryan's out of DRS range now, so Janetsky's on for a possible P5 here.
Yep, and the longer Ryan goes on those tyres, I'm wondering if Callum's got past.
Oh, Callum's got past Ghost. Wow.
I wonder if Ryan's actually safe from Toxic Jack behind.
I don't actually know. Toxic, by the looks of things, he isn't catching Janetsky. He's running at a pretty similar pace. It's not.
Is Lewis and Toxic? Side by side.
Oh, these two, a little bit of contact. And Lewis holds it around the outside. Brilliant defending from Lewis to keep P2. Great effort from Toxic to try it down the inside. Janetsky, meanwhile, has made his way past Ryan. Janetsky's up to P5. But Ryan picks up a time penalty.
That is going to change things now, because I think Toxic, as the race draws near to the end, can get that down to a 3-second gap.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Carlsberg and Callum are now side by side. Callum, I think, just made a mistake, actually. Carlsberg's now into the points. Carlsberg's going down the inside of his teammate. Carlsberg's going to take 2 in 1 here. Carlsberg up to P9 ahead of Ghosts. And here comes Callum back at Ghosts again. Not quite close enough by the looks of things. Ooh, Callum looking to the outside of turn 8. But Ghost... Yeah, Ghost really struggling with understeer. You could see it on board with Callum how much Ghost was having to turn for the hairpin. It's really struggling for understeer in that car.
Yeah, he's got a full front wing, so
I don't know whether his setup... I'm just not sure. Maybe his setup's just not working for him at the moment. He's just not got the turn into the corners at the moment. He's really struggling mid-corner for understeer. Just another note as well.
Just had a little snap then.
Just another note as well. Just looking at McCrew, the medium tyres really aren't that strong at the moment. McCrew put those medium tyres on, and they are 10 laps younger than Toxic's hards in front, and McCrew is not catching Toxic in any way, and has barely pulled away from Janetsky. Ryan, meanwhile, is actually coming back at Janetsky into turn 1. Janetsky's very late on the brakes. Ryan's going to try and switch back him into turn 2. Janetsky backs out and picks up a time penalty.
Yeah, that's just equalised things between these two.
That really has now, so it's a battle on track for these two. Toxic, like we said, not catching. Callum, meanwhile, has made his way past Ghost. Ghost had a bit of a snap through turn 2 again as well, so Callum into the points. Ghost falls out of the points. Meanwhile, Dylan's pitted for the soft tyres. I think he's going to try and go for fastest lap maybe, but he's going to come out in plumb last. Oh wow, yeah, he's caught aquaplaning very quickly. Let's have a look. Does he have a move into turn 10? He's not close enough. It's not really an overtaking spot either. But look at the traction on the exit of the corner that Carsby has compared to aquaplaning. This is an easy move down the inside. Carsby's up to P8. Great recovery from Carsby. And he's through. A basic 2-stop for Carsby after having to pit very early for front wing damage. And he's back up to P8, so brilliant result from him. But I think that's as far as he's going to go. He's 7 seconds off the back of Toxic now. I don't think he's going to get any closer than that. Meanwhile, Janetsky again is on the back of Ryan for the move into turn 1. At the moment, though, it looks like, with 3 laps to go, Ryan is, at the moment, managing these medium tyres pretty well. He hasn't lost a lot of pace. It was Ghost.
5-second penalty for exceeding track limits.
Oh, that's a weird one. I don't know if he ran too much over the curb, but he's trying to go back at Callum down into turn 1. Meanwhile, aquaplaning's repassed Carsby into turn 1.
He's absolutely sent it down the inside.
Oh.
Wasn't much room to squeeze down there, but he still went for it.
Still went for it. Carsby picks up a time penalty now. Carsby and aquaplaning are still side by side. Ghost and Callum are side by side. Callum all the way around the outside. He's going to do it again at turn 4 maybe, but he runs too wide. And Ghost holds onto the place. Ghost really fighting for that 10th place on 17 lap-old hards at this point. Against 7 lap-old mediums. Great defending. Oh, Ghost, a massive snap there just before turn 8. Really well held. Meanwhile, at the front of the field, I'm actually just going to cut to the leaders. Lewis is only 3/10 back. This is the closest he's been. 2 laps to go. I think this is where Lewis finally starts to make his move. Just as goes right to the inside. Lewis 6 to the racing line. Lewis switches back down the inside. It's really tight to the apex. A really shallow line. He isn't able to make the move stick. Here comes Toxic with a better run through turn 2.
Look at the traction at turn 2 there from Toxic.
Toxic to the outside of Lewis, but Lewis has got DRS on the McLaren in front as well. Toxic round the outside. There was a little bit of wheel banging. Lewis now on the inside of the McLaren, but they still managed to stay in the same order.
Oh, this final lap's going to be very tasty now.
It's very tasty between these two. They've been inseparable the entire race. Nothing to choose. Oh, Lewis has a big snap of oversteer through turn 8. Toxic, is he going to go for a move at turn 9? Does he back out? He sticks with it, but he backs out midway through turn 9. I think he decided that it wouldn't be the smartest move. I think if Toxic wants to win this race, he doesn't want to lose time to the McLaren, but he is down the inside. Toxic down the inside of Lewis into turn 11. Does he have the move stuck down the inside? Lewis holds it around the outside. There's a bit of contact. Lewis is forced off the track, but Toxic had the racing line, and Toxic is now back up into second place. But he's almost out of DRS range to the McLaren now, and that was one of Toxic's probably last opportunities to overtake the McLaren. So Just As may have actually just been saved by that.
Yeah, we'll see if Toxic can try something maybe into turn 4. I don't think he's going to be close enough into turn 1 to try anything.
I don't think he is, and he's running out of ERS by the looks of things as well. Lewis is close enough.
Just has to be fair.
Yeah, they all are running out now. They're all starting to use it. Toxic incredibly late on the brakes at turn 1. He gains so much time in the braking zone. But he's still not going to be close enough for turn 4. Vicker's last opportunity now is down into turn 11. We're going to stick on board with these guys for the rest of the final lap. Throughout the field, meanwhile, Ghost and Callum are still battling it out over the last points playing position. They're only a tenth apart.
And Ryan, as I think now those tyres have reached the absolute cliff, he's dropped massively back off Janetsky.
Yeah, 2 seconds behind Janetsky. Toxic's actually gained a second and a half on him in a lap. So Ryan is a little bit under pressure now from losing 6th place. Especially with the time penalty that he has. He is only going to lose 5 tenths in this lap, and Ryan drops to 7th. Meanwhile, Toxic again, not close enough. Into turn 11, I think Just As has got this one. Toxic's move on Lewis has actually cost him a shot at the victory by the looks of things. Callum and Ghost are side by side meanwhile through turn 2, and I think Callum's finally managed to make that move stick on the final lap. As they come through the penultimate corner now then, Just As has driven a stellar defensive race. He's driven this absolutely brilliantly. He's arguably not been the fastest of the top 3, but he's played it incredibly smart. And he's going to round the last corner now, and Just As round the last corner in that McLaren. We don't know about time penalties, but by the looks of things, the top 3 don't have any. Here comes Just As to the line. He's going to cross the line and win. Toxic across the line in 2nd and Lewis in 3rd. It stays that way with no penalties for any of them. Just As a brilliant result from him in his first race in INL. He comes across the line to take the win. The first round of the Sprint Championship goes his way. There's a big 25-second gap back to McCrew in P4. What a lonely race for him in the end. But great stuff from the Season 1 champion to come across the line. He's going to come across the line in P4. There's an incredible battle going on for 16th at the moment between Daniel and Dylan for rights of last place on the track. McCrew crosses the line in P4 ahead of Janetsky in P5. Ryan crosses the line in P6. Where does Toxic coming all this? Oh, but Toxic has
Toxic had a 5-second.
Had a 5-second unserved time penalty, so Toxic stays in 7th. Ryan in 6th. Great stuff from Ryan to take the mediums. 19 laps. How on earth he pulled that off, I will never know. Carlsby takes 8th ahead of Aquaplaning in 9th. Callum's going to cross the line in 10th. And Ghost outside the points in 11th. Here comes Patrick, he's 12th. Actually, J. Luke jumps him now. Ghost drops to 13th in the end. But my oh my, what a race that was in the end. Just hypes. Cohen crosses the line now, hypes across the line. He slides his way across the line and hits the wall actually. Daniel crosses the line and Dylan will be last across the line, but he takes the fastest lap of the race in the end. But my oh my, what a race that was.
I am incredibly impressed with how competitive this division is on the opening race.
The opening race of the Sprint Championship. This is the Sprint Championship, let alone our full season, and that was incredibly competitive for a first race in Division 1 for this championship. Incredible stuff, but like I said, Just As brilliant, smart, well-driven race. He was, like I said, wasn't necessarily the fastest of the top 3, but he was the smartest, and he pulled it off. And he takes the win in the McLaren then, ahead of Toxic, who comes in 2nd from 6th on the grid. Great recovery from him. Lewis in 3rd in the end. Arguably, probably the fastest of the top 3, I would say. Probably had a shot at winning this one, but it just didn't go his way in the end. McCrew, a lonely race in P4 in the end. Janetsky in P5. Great recovery from 12th on the grid. XL Ryan from 18th on the grid on the soft tyres at the start. A soft medium strategy at Bahrain to finish 6th.
That's my driver of the day. That's my driver of the day. Just on that soft medium strat alone.
Just on that soft medium strategy and the racing that he pulled off in that one against Daniel, Janetsky. Ryan is my driver of the day as well for that one as well. Toxic Jack crosses the line in P7 in the Alfa Romeo from 13th on the grid. Carlsbury in 8th, good recovery from him. Aquapanning from 19th on the grid to P9. And Callum rounds off the top 10 on his 2-stop strategy. P11, then the first man out of the points was Patrick, ahead of J. Luke, Ghost, Cohen, Daniel and Dylan is the last finisher. Actually, Hypes was the last finisher, sorry. Bullet Boy and Just Chris did not finish the race in the end. But yeah, what an incredible race and a topsy-turvy finish. After the grid that we had, I was not expecting the finishing result we ended up with.
I mean, with Bullet Boy getting that spin early and Hype's just been on that to stop, which didn't work for him.
Hmm.
Along with Ghost really struggling today.
Yeah, absolutely. A number
Yeah,
of
it's thrown
people.
things open.
It really has. It's really thrown a spanner into the works. But like you said, I think XL Ryan's going to have to take my driver of the day today. Brilliant strategy call from him. How he pulled that off, I will never know. I may have to ask him for some tips after this one. But that was brilliant stuff from him. But any last words from you, Ivor, before we round off the stream today?
It was a fantastic race, and I can't wait for the next round.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a brilliant race. Next time out, this time next Saturday, it is Spain, so a completely different track again. A proper driver's track is Spain. We may see completely different people at the front of the field next time out. Who knows? It's going to be an incredibly competitive sprint championship, and I'm really looking forward to the rest of the season for this one. But thank you everyone for tuning in. Thank you, Ivor, for co-commenting alongside me as always. And we will see you next Saturday at 1 p.m. Stay on the channel though. Don't go anywhere. In about 40 minutes' time, Division 2 will be starting. That's a bit weird to say that I know Division 2 is going to be starting soon. But
And I'm racing.
yeah, good luck to Ivor. Ivor is racing in Division 2, so send Ivor all your love in the stream chat and things like that as well. But yeah, 40 minutes time, Division 2 will be starting up, same race again. Hopefully it's just as competitive as Division 1 was. I'm really looking forward to watching that. So good luck to everyone racing in that. And thank you everyone for tuning in. And we will see you at the same time next week. Goodbye.